Hello everyone, my name is Lisa and I'm the Viet Vegan because I'm Viet and I'm vegan. And today, this video is sponsored by Squarespace. I want to say thank you to Squarespace for being so awesome throughout this pandemic and ensuring that this girl can still pay the bills and treat myself to birthday things, you know what I'm saying? I'll talk more about Squarespace later on in the video. Every year around my birthday, I try to do a lot of self-reflection, asking myself, who am I? How have I changed? What do I still have to learn? Normally for these moments of self-reflection, I leave all of this introspective mumbo-jumbo wordiness for my vlog. It's always been like a journal for me, but this year, I find myself compelled to say it out loud. So here I am sharing what I ate for my 30th birthday weekend and talking about feelings out loud. So buckle up and let's hang out. So before I get into the feelings, let me tell you what's happening in this video. For my birthday, my friends and I went to Elora Gorge. Now, I didn't have like a big party. Normally I would invite a ton of people to my birthday. So I think last year I had like 20 people come for a barbecue. Everything was vegan. I made all the food, all that jazz. It's consistent that I would be cooking for everybody because that's just a me thing, which I will get into in a bit. This year, a few friends and I went to Elora Gorge. Now, I've started bubbling with these friends specifically, so I'm not saying that everyone should just go hang out with all your friends for your birthday. We specifically did this in a way where it was a small party. We were outside for safety reasons and also fun and nature, but we were trying to be as safe as possible. So for the food, since we're all eating outside, I wanted to bring food that was like okay to be sitting in a cooler in the car for a couple hours before we had time to eat. So I decided to make banh mi. So I used lemongrass tofu banh mi, which I have a recipe for the lemongrass tofu portion on my blog. I'll link it down below. I also have a really old video about it if you want to watch that. On the Friday, I made pate. I don't have a video for that because I don't really feel like it's particularly interesting. You're just cooking a bunch of things and then blending it basically. So I have the recipe for that on my blog. If you want it, I'll link it down below. I made an Instagram reel about it if you want to see some visuals, but like I said, it's not super appealing because it's just like brown blended stuff, but it is really tasty and I froze it for my mom and I gave it to her on my birthday weekend and she really enjoyed it. So pate, it's a good time. For the lemongrass tofu, I have some soy curls which I've hydrated with some hot water and a little bit of mushroom broth powder for flavor, and I have some fried tofu that I'm slicing up. And so I'm going to pan fry everything together, add a bunch of lemongrass, and instead of making it out of fresh lemongrass, I use frozen just to save time. Enjoy this montage while I talk about my feelings. Over the past few years, I found myself trying to bend who I am to try and accommodate others, especially when it comes to meeting expectations from friends or family or even unrealistic expectations from myself. The process of planning a wedding shone a spotlight on relationships with friends and family that either got stronger after I got married or started to fray, exposing things left unaddressed that needed repair. The aftermath of social confrontations from wedding planning presented me with the opportunity to accept the people in my life as they were and to liberate myself from trying to live up to their expectations because it was just way too exhausting otherwise. From age 25 to 29, I spent the majority of my time figuring out how I showed love and how I needed to be loved. Looking back, it's so obvious now that my love is shown through food. Cooking food, sharing food, eating food. It didn't have to be monumental or anything like that. If anything, it was just the smaller things that were more important. For example, sharing the kitchen as Eddie washes the pile of dishes I've accumulated from my whirlwind of cooking is probably one of my favorite ways to end my workday. Eating together, either watching TV, chatting together, or even in silence is one of my favorite ways for us to be together. And the same goes for my friends and my family. My friends have learned to accept that I will always cook for them no matter what the occasion is. If they're sick, if it's my birthday, even if they're doing me a favor, or if it's a party at their house, no matter what, I am making something for them to eat. It took me a long time to learn how to ask for love. I used to think that if someone didn't love me the way that I thought love was supposed to be, then they didn't love me at all. It's something that I still struggle with, but understanding love languages and understanding different forms of communication have given me a framework so I don't spiral into despair for no reason. Before I keep talking about feelings and food, let me tell you about today's sponsor, Squarespace. Back to school season is upon us, and I always see it as a fresh start. So why not start the new school year with a new website for your new business, art, restaurant, or blog with Squarespace? Squarespace is an awesome platform that has pre-made templates where you can drag, drop, and customize to create your own beautiful website. You can configure a third-party domain to your Squarespace website or purchase domains directly from Squarespace. All of their templates are always mobile-friendly and don't require any updates or complicated code. So if you want to get started on Squarespace, go to squarespace.com/VietVegan and use code VietVegan to get 10% off your first order. These sandwiches were actually so perfect for what I wanted. They stayed nice and cool in the cooler, and they were very tasty, very filling, had both protein, some crunch, lots of flavor, and of course carbs, because we were out in the sun all day, and so we definitely needed some carbs, especially because one of my friends is diabetic. So I had prepped this the morning of, but the night before I'd also made these blueberry sourdough discard muffins. I don't have a specific recipe for this yet because I'm still testing it, but it's based off of another recipe I'll link down below, but that one's not vegan. I was using vegan yogurt and more sourdough starter to sort of compensate for it, and I made it so it could get really like fluffy. Actually, it was pretty impressive. It depends on the kind of vegan yogurt that you're using, and it depends on your sourdough starter and how viscous it is, because different flours will have a different consistency for the discard. I was just sort of playing around with it. I added some frozen blueberries. I added like a crumble. I'm not 100% happy with a crumble, but I will probably be experimenting some more. I baked these the night before, and I just kept them sort of half covered in my kitchen for the morning of, and they were the perfect pre-hiking fuel before we hike up the trail to get to the top of the gorge. I always had this fear of not being fun or interesting, so for so long, I exhausted myself trying to be this energetic, popular, and likable person. After I finished my master's, I had moved out of downtown Toronto and out into the neighboring cities, and the end of my 20s was spent feeling so grateful that I lived far enough away that people didn't expect me to come into the city for a night out. The desire to be perceived as this life of the party was exhausting, and when I finally took that expectation of myself away, I found myself finding ways to bond with friends and family in ways that were way more enjoyable and in line with what I actually wanted to do. It turned out that the friends who really knew me never expected me to be the life of the party anyway, and always knew where to find me when I burned myself out. It was almost always by food or outside. Embarking on this new job path of being self-employed and leaning into being a creative forced me to confront these unrealistic and unreasonable expectations for myself. I learned how to bank in time for these creative spurts and the inevitable burnout afterwards. I learned how to understand that my path was not the same as others before me, nor was it the wrong path if I saw other people taking shorter and much more lucrative paths than my long and winding and random one. I learned that my self-worth was not tied to how much money I made or any awards that I had or milestones that I wanted to hit. I learned the joy of waking up to a clean kitchen. I learned that it's okay to feel super pumped for getting your dentist's approval for how solid your dental hygiene is. I've learned that when someone needs support, sometimes they don't want solutions and that they just want to be heard. I've learned that sometimes your parents are right, but that doesn't negate the times that they're wrong. I've learned that sometimes you have to be the bigger person or the adult in the relationship, and nobody really knows what the heck they're doing most of the time. Some lessons clicked after being guided to these answers, but I know I have a lot more to learn and unlearn, especially after this year of uncertainty and hard truths. In addition to the banh mi, I also decided to make some onigiri. I love making onigiri for like outdoor snacks or hiking food or just like a picnic type food because people can eat as much as they like, and it's also pretty and easy to incorporate both some sort of carb and also some sort of protein. For the first onigiri, I made like the traditional triangle shaped one, and I stuffed them with a vegan shrimp salad using this shrimp from Neliki. It's made with a konjac, and I found it at my local Asian grocery store, but you can find it at Coven. I mostly find it at grocery stores like the one in the Mississauga Chinatown. I find these ones at Nations or Tan Tan in Hamilton. So I added some vegan mayo, spring onion, and black pepper and Old Bay seasoning, and then I mix it all together. I didn't really measure. You just kind of use whatever you like. You can add a little bit of lemon juice if you want a little bit more tartness, and I put that in the fridge to sort of like set up and just kind of infuse with some flavor. Then for the other onigiri, I was going to attempt to make onigiri with unagi stuffed inside, but I was finding that it didn't really stick together the way that I wanted it to, so I decided to make sort of traditional balls instead. I ran out of sushi rice, so I was using arborio rice instead, since they're both short grain, pretty starchy rices. It actually worked out pretty well. I'm not 100% convinced that I was actually using arborio rice. I could have been using sushi rice that I've totally mislabeled, but it's fine. I was making the unagi sauce, which is, I think, equal parts tamari or soy sauce and rice mirin, and then I used some sugar. So you just cook down the sugar until it dissolves and it kind of reduces to like a thick syrupy type texture, and that is perfect for basting and using as a sauce. I think it's like what teriyaki sauce is. So I found some vegan fish, which is basically like a soy hammy fishy roll that's wrapped in seaweed, and I pan fried them on each side just to get a little bit of texture, and then I coated them in the cooled sauce, and that gives it that sort of sweetness. I chopped them all up, and then I added them to the rice with some mirin, furikake, peas, corn, and some more unagi sauce. When I saw my brother for my birthday, he was telling me about how some people he was playing video games with were old, but they weren't grown up old. I asked him, how old is grown up old? And he responded, like 30 to 40. I was suddenly hit with the realization that I was a kind of grown up, but my brother immediately backtracked and said, well, you're not a grown up. And I responded, aren't I? Turning 30 and taking the time to stop and look back at how far I've come made me suddenly aware of how grown up I had become. The landmarks I've accumulated that often are associated with being a grown up are all around me. Being married, owning a home, having a stable-ish job. Although I know plenty of people who are married, homeowners, and employed who still have plenty of growing up to do. There are so many other factors to being grown up that I think matter more. Being self-assured, understanding yourself, loving yourself, and accepting yourself. These were all things that I realized I was doing. When did I stop caring what people thought? Well, I still care a little bit, but mostly I care about what people that I love think. When did I become so responsible about money and hydration, about flossing? When did I start knowing who I was? When did my priorities change? The last few years for me and Eddie have been full of many ups and downs. Traveling around the world, getting engaged, buying a house, planning a wedding. There are so many good moments that were struck down with bad. My mom had a cancer scare, my dad had cancer and passed last year, and Eddie's family also experienced a lot of cancer and loss over the past few years. Each crashing wave of cancer and loss meant that we were struck with the reality of how we needed to do better and to take care of both our mental and physical health, as well as taking care of the health of those around us. Time is short, and we need to be more mindful of our time on this beautiful planet. That sounds so cheesy, but it's truly Earth is beautiful. I'm taking more time to prioritize seeing the world, be thankful for what I have, to say more I love yous and be more present, and to stop taking everything so seriously. By no means am I done growing, but I feel pretty good with the growth that I've done. Now that I'm here and feeling pretty confident, I find myself leaning towards life choices that challenge who I think I am and what I think I can handle. I've encountered some uncomfortable moments with people in my life in the last few years where I've had to reassess the time and energy I spend on them. Relationships are always going to be an ebb and a flow, and sometimes it can be hard to realize that your time in somebody's life might be going out with the tide. I've had to let go of some relationships that I fought so hard for. I've loved these people with all of my heart, but I deserved more. I knew that then, but it took me a while to really know that now. It's been a challenge not to take everything so personally and to take a step back to understand that not everyone is at the same point of their journey as me. So many people have told me that they felt like their life began as soon as they turned 30. I think that age is just a number, and that as I get older, I inch closer to the age that I feel like on the inside. But I understand that turning 30 liberates you from certain promises that you've made yourself. Promises that were unattainable and frankly not in line with what you actually want or need. I'm excited for this new decade, although 2020 has been the beginning of one heck of a decade. With every birthday that passes, I am wiser, older, and more at peace with myself. I'm excited for what comes next. So to cap off my birthday, I went to my favorite restaurant in Toronto, which is called Sue's, which has its own plant-based sort of side menu called Pha Choy, and it is so good. It's Malaysian cuisine, and my favorite dish is the Char Kway Teow, and we had some of their papaya salad, which is their prosperity slaw, these lettuce wraps, and of course the sago sago. So I just want to say thank you so much for watching this video. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys enjoyed these feelings, and I hope you guys have a delicious day. Bye.